and welcome to the second series of Interstorm Games Presents. My name is Richard Cree, and if you've been following this so far, you know that we just wrapped up our first season of Interstorm Games Presents, or ISGP, by talking about my top 100 games of all time, as of the year 2012. If you hadn't had a chance to see that yet, why don't you go check that out? But we're not here to talk about 100 games, we're just here to talk about one game. The game that you and I will be playing together. Because it's just going to be me for this video series, I decided to change things up a bit from what we discussed earlier. So instead, I'm going to be playing a solo game, and I'll make a couple of moves, and I'll stop, and you guys can help me decide what move I should make next. If we get enough buzz around this, then maybe we'll go back to what we talked about before, where you guys can actually be an actual player in the game itself. With that being said, let's take a look at the game we're going to be playing. It's a game where we're going to take on the role of an alien race bent on expanding their empire. There's just one problem. One of these pesky planets has decided to, obviously futilely, stand up against us. But they're only postponing the inevitable, because soon they will fall victim to our conquest of planet Earth. Conquest of Planet Earth is a game by Flying Frog Productions set firmly in the spirit and camp of the 1950s sci-fi thrillers. Players will take on the role of an alien race in, well, their conquest of planet Earth. Aided by advanced technologies and powerful allies, the aliens will cut a swath of destruction across the land. But the human race is not going down without a fight. The human resistance is filled with military might and bold heroes who are intent on sending the aliens packing. The game itself can be played in 3 modes. The first is competitive mode. This is where 2 to 4 players vie against the human resistance and each other in their quest for world domination. The second is cooperative mode. This is where the players are going to work together to bring the world to its heels. And the final mode is solo mode. We just played, you guessed it, solo. And it's the one we'll be playing on this series. There are only a few slight variations between all the game modes, so we'll go ahead and cover all the rules for all the modes, and we'll call out which ones are unique to each mode. But before we go over the rules, let's look at the components. This game is about aliens, so we'll look at them first. 10 alien races are included in the game, and are represented on these alien race cards. Each card contains the name of the alien race, the strength, which is used in fights, and the intelligence, which is used to determine the amount of cards you can keep in your hand. The card also lists any special abilities that particular alien race possesses. Each race will have 1 or more abilities they can access at any time. They will also have 1 or more abilities that will require 1 or more menace tokens to activate. These are alien menace tokens. We'll talk more about these later. But for now, know that they're needed to activate the special abilities of each alien race. Command counters are used to indicate how many actions each player will have available to them each turn. They're numbered 2 through 6 and a D6. We will cover these in greater detail when we go through the rules. The human resistance track and tech track marker are used to track the progress of the human race's efforts to expel the aliens. It is used specifically in the cooperative and solo games. There are 5 decks of cards that are used in the game. 4 of them, location cards, resistance cards, event cards, and space stuff, are used regardless of the game mode. There is a 5th deck of 6 human tech cards that is used in the cooperative and solo mode games. Location cards are just that. Locations that the aliens will have to conquer in order to quell the resistance. Each location has 2 values. The first, in the green icon, is the population value. The population value translates to terror points when an alien conquers this location. The second is the resistance value. This number indicates the number of fights that will occur at this location in order to conquer it. Sometimes during the course of a game, a location becomes destroyed. To indicate this, demolish counters are provided to indicate that both the population and resistance values have been reduced to 0. However, if a resistance counter ends up in a demolished area, that resistance counter strength is increased by 1. Resistance cards represent the aspects of humanity that are struggling against the alien invaders. There are 2 types of resistance cards. The regular resistance are the staunch defenders that will engage the aliens at various locations. Heroes are the individuals who lend their expertise to support the regular resistance. Heroes are denoted by the word hero in the card description. There are also resistance counters that can represent mobile resistance capable of moving about the board. Event cards represent the various strategies and tactics that the aliens will use against the resistance, and are usually held in the player's hand until ready to use. Some event cards require the player to spend action points to use, while others must be played immediately. Space stuff are the weapons, upgrades, and allies that will enhance the aliens' abilities to create havoc and destruction. If the player is lucky enough to find an ally, they take the associated model and immediately place it in their landing zone. The player can now use this ally to move about the board and conquer locations as if it were part of his invasion fleet. The game board is composed of up to 5 tiles divided into 7 spaces, representing where the alien invasion is taking place. A single central space featuring the game's logo and 6 surrounding spaces. The central area has a ring of numbers that are used to determine the results of random placements during the course of the game. If a random placement is necessary, roll a d6. Match the number rolled to the number on the board. The associated arrow will tell you where to place the random element. Finally, each player will have 4 spaceships and 10 conquest markers of a matching color. The spaceships are moved across the board to show the progress of the aliens' invasion, and the conquest tokens are used to show which locations are currently under the alien's thumb and/or tentacle. A first player marker is used to indicate which player starts your round. That's it for the components. Now let's see how they all work together. The playing area will always consist of a central board surrounded by player boards. Each player will choose one of these outer boards to represent the starting point of their invasion. The exact layout of the playing area will differ based on the number of players. Since we'll be playing a solo game, we'll use this setup for the rest of the rules explanation. Look to the location cards and find the double-sided objective location card with Capital City printed on one side and Historic Monument on the other. This card goes on the logo area of the central board to indicate the central objective. For this game, we'll use the Capital City side. In the cooperative and solo modes, the resistance phase board that holds the human resistance tracker needs to be set up where everyone can see it. Place the tech track marker on level 0 of the tracker. After the board is laid out, each player will take 4 spaceships and the accompanying conquest tokens of the same color. Place all 4 spaceships on the logo square of the player board. This will represent the player's landing zone. Players will also receive a set of command counters and a single Alien Menace token. Finally, using either a random or non-random selection, players will choose which alien race they will represent in the game. For this game, we will be the Fishermen of Atlarak. Next, shuffle the location cards, space stuff cards, and resistance cards into individual decks. In a competitive game, shuffle all the event cards into a 4th deck. Since we will be playing a solo game, which is a variant of the cooperative mode, we will need to create a deck to represent the human resistance we'll be trying to crush. To do this, we will search through the event deck and remove all the cards with this red box at the bottom. We will shuffle each deck, and now we should have 2 piles of event cards. One for us, and one for the humans. Finally, draw event cards up to your starting hand size. In this game, because our intelligence is 4, we'll be able to hold 4 event cards in our hand each turn. Make sure that you play any play immediately cards from your hand as soon as you draw them. Now we are ready to play. start of each round, players will secretly select a command counter from their available pool. This command counter will determine the number of action points they'll be able to spend later on in the action phase. Players should choose carefully because once a command counter is used, it is discarded and it's unavailable to the player until the only command counter they have left is their D6. They'll then be able to take all previously used command counters back into their pools. The D6 counter is never discarded. To use the D6 token, simply declare you are using the D6 token, then roll a 6-sided dice. If you roll a 1, collect an Alien Menace token and roll again. The second roll stands, even if you roll another 1. If you do roll a 1 on your second roll, you do not collect a second Alien Menace token. After everyone has chosen their command counter, they are revealed and the D6 counters are rolled to determine the action points. The player with the least amount of action points takes the first player marker. In the solo game, only the D6 command counter is used. Some space stuff cards require the player to activate them in order to use them. Activated cards are placed face down next to the alien race sheet. At the beginning of the action phase, players will ready any cards that were activated in the previous round. Cards are readied by turning them face up. This part of the action phase will be skipped in the first round, as no players will have had the opportunity to activate any cards. On their turn, players will have the opportunity to spend the action points collected in the command phase on any actions they wish to and can afford to perform. Each action costs a certain number of points. Because we are playing the solo game, we will always only have access to the D6 command counter. The action points we have to spend will always be dependent on the dice we roll. If we roll a 1 on our first roll, we will be able to collect an Alien Menace token. However, our second roll will have to stand, and if we roll a 1 on our second roll, we will not collect another Alien Menace token. Available actions include: for 1 action point, you may land a spaceship. To land a spaceship, simply move it from the pool of destroyed spaceships to the logo space on your player board. Players may also spend 1 action point to move spaceships. Ships may move 1 adjacent space per action point spent. They must stop moving when they either come to an empty space or a location that has a resistance value of 1 or higher and does not have a Conquest token on it. They must also stop if they come into a location where an enemy alien is present. A player may spend 2 action points to gain 1 Alien Menace token. Action points can also be used to play event cards. Some event cards have an action point cost printed on the card. This is the number of action points required to put that card into play. Players may perform these actions as many times as they like and in any order they wish. If a player does not use all of their action points that turn, they are lost. They do not carry over to the next round. Combat and Conquest of Planet Earth takes place in 3 phases: a battle, a fight, and a fight round. A battle can occur in 3 situations. The first, a player moves into an empty space and draws a location card, a resistance value of at least 1. Secondly, a player moves onto an unconquered location with a resistance value of at least 1. And finally, if a player moves onto a conquered location and spaceships from another alien race are present, a battle will occur. Within each battle, a number of fights will occur. The number of fights that happen will depend on the resistance value of that location. For example, a location has a resistance value of 2. 2 fights will be required to conquer that location. To have a fight, draw a card from the resistance deck until a regular resistance card is drawn. Regular resistance are often marked as soft or hard. And that's chewy or crunchy in the mindset of the aliens. If a hero card is drawn, immediately draw another resistance card. Continue drawing until a regular resistance card is drawn. This could mean that several heroes can participate in a single fight. Heroes support the resistance, but are not the main force of the resistance. Aliens must fight at least one regular resistance. For this example, I've added a second spaceship to the fight. Once a regular resistance card has been drawn, a fight round begins. Add up the collective strength of all the resistance cards in the fight. This includes the regular resistance and any supporting heroes. For this example, the resistance total strength is 6. 3 for the U.S. Army Infantry, 2 for the Army Scientists, and 1 for the Investigative Reporter. The alien strength is found on their alien race sheet. This number indicates the strength of each spaceship participating in the fight. So 2 spaceships belonging to the same race with a strength of 3 would have a total strength of 6 for the fight. After initial strengths are calculated, both sides roll a fight die and add the total to their strength. To keep things simple, we will always use white to represent the resistance and red to represent the aliens. Whichever side has the higher total at this point is the victor. Here, the resistance has a total of 11. 5 on their fight die, plus their 6 strength. The aliens have a total of 9. 3 from their fight dice, plus their 2 spaceships. So in this example, the humans win. If the humans win a fight, the aliens discard 1 spaceship. It has been destroyed. The alien player now has the option to either escape or to play another fight round. In this case, let's choose to fight another fight round. Before we begin the next fight round, let's note that the strengths have changed for this next fight round. While the resistance still has a total of 6, the aliens now only have a total of 3 because they only have 1 spaceship participating in the fight. Let's roll the dice again. Let's roll the dice again. Now the humans have a combined strength total of 10 and the aliens have a 9. 3 plus the 6. However, because the aliens rolled a 6, this is considered a crushing victory. If either side rolls a 6 on their fight die, they win the fight immediately. If the aliens win, discard the resistance cards in play. Then, if this were the final fight in this battle, you'll place a Conquest token in that location. However, because this location has a resistance value of 2, the aliens must have another fight in this location before they can conquer it. If a fight round ever ends in a tie, the aliens have 2 options. They may either fight another fight round, in which case no cards are removed and no ships are removed. Simply roll the fight dice again for both sides. However, the aliens could choose to escape. To escape, the player moves his ships to an adjacent empty area or friendly location. If no such avenue of escape exists, the aliens must stay and continue to fight. One last note on winning battles and placing conquest markers. In the competitive game, it is possible to steal conquests from other players if the conquered location has been left undefended. Simply move your spaceship into the conquered space and change out the conquest marker with one of your own. You must end your move in the location to swap the marker. You cannot swap a marker by passing through a location. A player's turn ends by drawing back up to their hand size, determined by their alien race's intelligence score. Captain Fantastic is not just a hero, he is a superhero, and counts as regular resistance even though he is just one man. In the cooperative and solo modes, when Captain Fantastic is drawn from the resistance deck, he immediately attacks all locations on a single board. Each location has a population value that correlates to the amount of terror that the aliens have instilled there. These are called terror points once a Conquest token has been placed in that location. When an alien's terror value reaches 8, they immediately win the game. And that's it for the basics and nearly everything you need to know for a game in competitive mode. But we're playing a solo mode, which is a variation of the cooperative mode. That means we've got a few more things to cover. In the cooperative and solo modes of Conquest of Planet Earth, players will play directly against the human resistance, hoping to achieve a victory before the humans can complete their own supercannon. To represent this, the human resistance will have their own phase in the game. We've already talked about the need to separate the event deck into 2 separate event decks when playing a cooperative solo game. The human resistance event deck will consist of those cards with a red box at the bottom. The first step in the resistance phase is to draw a card from the resistance event deck and resolve it by reading the text in the red box. Only the text in the red box is used for the resistance event deck. Also, during the resistance phase, it is possible for locations to be liberated by the resistance. Any conquered location with a resistance counter present and no aliens is immediately liberated. The aliens will have to reconquer this location to gain any terror points from it. Next, the human tech track marker will be moved up 1 level, signifying the progress of humans are making towards their ultimate weapon. When the resistance marker reaches a red circle on the track, a resistance counter is placed in a random location on each board section. Next, any resistance counters with the move ability will move to 1 random space based on a die roll. Next, any resistance counters with the barrage ability fire at all aliens in adjacent spaces. Roll for a human tech breakthrough. Roll a number of dice equal to the current stage of the human tech track. If any of the dice come up as a 6, draw a human tech card from the human tech card draw pile. Only draw a single tech card each round, regardless of the number of 6s rolled. If the humans reach space 10 on their tech track, the humans have built their supercannon and the aliens immediately lose. However, if the aliens reach a combined terror total, based on the number of players, the game immediately ends with a victory for the aliens. Here are the required totals depending on the number of players needed for an alien victory in the cooperative game. And that's the game in a nutshell. There are a few other clarifications that we'll make as they come up, but for now, that's all we need to know to start the game. I'll try and get some gameplay episodes up shortly after the rules get posted. The rules should get posted sometime this weekend. But for now, thanks for watching. Be sure and like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and check out our website. It's actually getting updated fairly frequently. But most important of all, make sure you check out flyingfrog.net for other great Flying Frog games, including Last Night on Earth. Thanks for watching. And that's the game in a nutshell. Help, I'm the game in a nutshell. Okay, bad Austin Powers reference. I'll put that as a clip at the end.